My husband texted me, "I don't love you anymore." I contacted my lawyer and I did. He started screaming. I still remember the moment my phone vibrated, a notification popped up on the screen. It was a text from Tom, my husband of 10 years, a text that shattered everything I thought I knew. "I don't love you anymore. I want a divorce from now on. All communication will go through my lawyer." That was it. No explanation, no apology, just a hard, calculated text message. At first, I thought it was a joke, a cruel joke. My fingers trembled as I glanced quickly at the screen. Tom was at work, or at least he should have been. No warning signs, no late-night words, no sign that he had left our marriage. We weren't perfect, but I believed we were strong. So why did he end up like this? I tried calling him, no answer. I texted again, no response. Confusion turns to madness, then anger. A decade of living together, and here he is ending the character's life. A message that isn't even the truth is kind of face me. I live a deep breath trying to calm down. Maybe he's going through it. Yes, this is a mistake, but there's that in him as if. I feel unreal that he immediately cut off all contact and direct his lawyer, not just cold, but intentional. My intuition told me there was more to this. I called his lawyer. The line rang twice before a deep voice answered. "This is David Green. I can help you." I judge what try to steady my voice. "David, I'm Helen. Tom just sent me messages saying he wants a divorce." His lawyer. "Right there, resilience too long, Continuity completed. I've been running." He writes it down forcefully, as if that just happened. Decelerates. Mrs. Carter, his tone changed, now mixed with tension that had never been there before. She was saying Tom filed for divorce. A deep shiver ran down my spine. Why is Hesking me this? Shouldn't I know already? I did stop. The voice of the lawyer, Rose, was frantic and skilling. "Tom, you idiot," but was screaming not at me, but at someone there. Behind me heard the sound of mixed wallpaper, a saddle scraping against the floor. Something was wrong, very, very wrong. As she continued, his voice was quieter but urgent. "Listen, Emma, take care of Kelly. Have you signed anything, any documents?" He shook my head, even though he couldn't see me. "On nothing, just text messages." "Fine, don't sign anything, don't agree to anything. And for God's sake, don't talk to Tommy." Pulse was pounding in my ears. What was going on? I asked, "Why were you screaming?" A solid door slammed on the other end of the line, followed by voices were warped. Then David lowered his voice and said quickly, "Helen, I'm not allowed to tell you this, but your husband has kept you big secrets." "Secrets? If he divorces you before you find out, you keep everything." "Find out my ghost neck is dry. What are you talking about?" David sighed heavily. "Look, I have to go. But I'll say Alex made a big mistake. If he sent the message before I could finish everything, then you have a chance to get what you owe me." Am I too empty? I pressed, but then the line went dead. Pulled the phone away from my ear, looking at the screen. In disbelief, I called, expecting the usual legal tricks, maybe an easy explanation from an impartial lawyer. But this was annoying, losing my secret. My attack wasn't just over, but a dangerous thing. "He divorced you before you found out. I kept up everything." I read the text from Tom again. It felt different now, not like a cold goodbye, but more like a carefully prepared move. I spent 10 years building a life with this man, and now in a matter of minutes, I felt like I didn't even know who he was. My instincts would have been to call him for answers, but David the lawyer had warned me about that instead I needed information. I went back to the room. Helen read. Her voice was surprised. "We Lisa, sorry for calling you Mon Horizon, but today, you talked." Tom kept this voice steady, had texted me saying he wanted a divorce for no reason, saying everything went through his lawyer. Now Lisa took a sharp breath. "Oh, that's not their action I expected, you know, right?" I pressed again on silence. Then finally, "I have a feeling something is up. He's been acting strange for Miss Stomach is twisting strangely. How secretive she's. Admitted meetings are off the book. She started making multiple electronic transfers to an account I don't recognize, and last week she was Chesson. What I urged last week, I overheard him talking to someone. I don't know who, but he said once as she signs it's all mine, she won't even know what she's lost." I was dumbfounded. When she signs it's all mine, a cold wave of realization hit me. This isn't just about a divorce. Tom was trying to cut me off from something big, digging for answers. He ended the call with Lisa and went straight to Tom's house office, even though he had moved most of his work online, Hestel kept physical files in a drawer with a padlock. It knew the code. I knelt down and dialed the number. The drawer opened inside a pile of financial statements, neatly stacked legal documents, and bank statements. My hands were shaking as I shuffled. The man then, as though it was a statement for a bank account, it didn't recognize $8. 6 million. I had to blink to make sure I had read it wrong. 86 million, and the account was only in Tom's name. I flipped through more pages, my pulse was pounding. He had been transferring money into this account for over a year, moving assets, hiding wealth. And now he wanted me to sign divorce papers. Before I found out, my mind went back to David. The lawyer in his immediate panic had thought I knew, but it wasn't until now that I understood why David panicked when I called. He knew I was entitled to half, and if Tom had filed, he would have told David I had disappeared without a clue and complied, except now I wasn't, and I was damn sure I wasn't going to let Tom off the hook. I pulled out my phone, staring at the screen this time. I didn't call Tom, I called David again, and this time he was going to tell me everything. I stared at the bank statement in my shaking hands. $6 million, a fortune I never knew about until now. Tom has been transferring money for over a year, slowly siphoning it into a secret account under his name only, and now he wants to cut me off completely. I feel a fierce rage. Not for the money, but for the betrayal. We built a life together, a marriage I thought was. And while I worked, loved, and supported him, he was planning to leave. I grit my teeth and called David back this time. I won't let him dodge my question. The line rang once before he picked up. His voice was tense. Helen, David, I said. My voice was ice cold. He told me not to sign anything, not to talk to Tom. He panicked when I called. Now I know why there was silence, and then suddenly he exhaled. Did you find it? My fingers tightened around the phone. Secret bank account. Oh yes, I found it, and I assume there's more. David, you should catch a TED talk. Helen, listen. No, you listen, I yelled. Tom trying to do this quietly. I thought I wouldn't notice. He meant to leave me nothing, but now I know the truth. And David knew from the start. He let out a curse under his breath. Okay, he claimed he wanted the truth here. Tom had been preparing for this divorce for over a year. He had moved assets, moved money overseas, and set up legal barriers to keep him from touching like scent. I swallowed my boiling anger about why. I asked why not just be honest instead of stabbing me in the back. David sobbed. Because he thought you would fight him, and if you fought, they would win. It took a breath. He knew I was entitled to half, so I guess, he said bitterly, he would drag this out in court until I got tired of accepting some small settlement and walking away. David hesitated. That was the plan. I clenched my jaw. Son of a bitch. No, just that, David continued, said sternly, but he was planning to tell the court that the money was his own, that he earned it without your help. That means she has no right to a single cent. My stomach twisted with disgust. It was going to lie. David didn't answer. He didn't have to answer. I exhaled, forcing myself to think. Tom thought they had won. I thought they had played me, but now I prevailed. David, I said, be careful. You're his lawyer. Why are you telling me this? A chuckle. Because your husband is an idiot. Surprised me. He didn't listen. Helen, David continued. I warned him this was illegal. It told him if he found out you would pay dearly, but I think he didn't listen. It hurt when he just cried for a few weeks and signed the paper. She sobbed. I guess she forgot who he was married to. I smiled despite myself. That's where he made his biggest mistake. A muter. David hesitated. Helen, he shouldn't have said this. But if you play your cards right, you could ruin him completely. I clenched the phone. Let's continue. I insisted. You had something stronger than money. David said you had proof of bank statements, hidden money transfers. And if you took this to court, the judge would see right through him. Meaning, Tom wouldn't just lose money. He could facing the legal consequences of financial fraud. I closed my eyes, letting the words in. Kinney was ready for a fight for the assets, but this was bigger than I had ever imagined. As low calculated smile spread across my lips. He had loved him, but after everything he had done, I was going to make sure he paid. Had always played fair, always believed in doing the right thing, but now I was ready to win. It took a deep breath and made a decision. It was not going to just fight for what was mine. I was going to bury him. I hung up the phone. My pulse was pounding. David had just confirmed my worst fears. Tim was not just surprised me with the divorce. He had planned it for over a year, transferring money, setting up legal traps, and manipulating the system to leave Me with nothing, he thought I wouldn't fight back, he thought I wouldn't find out, but now I knew everything and I was not going to give up without a fight as it on the FNAM's office. My hands were shaking as he spread out the documents in front of my face. Bank transfer to foreign account, 1-8 hidden, 6 million fortune. This is not just financial betrayal, it is fraud. I need to be smart about my next move. If Tom finds out that I have these documents, she will try to cover his tracks. I pull out my phone and take pictures to make sure I have everything, then I send them to 3 different places. My email, a secure cloud storage, and to Lisa, Tom's assistant. Lisa is the one who alerted Med to his suspicious behavior. She may not realize the full extent of his deception, but I know she will not betray me in case I send the messages with the files. Lisa, I need you to keep these if anything happens to him or my access to this information. I need you to send them to David Green immediately. Her reply was almost immediate. Helen, what the hell is this? Tom has hidden that much money, yes. And now I will make sure he pays for it. There was a long silence before she responded, anything what you need, I support you. I exhale slowly, good, because I'm about to start a fight. I know Thomas of this company's penthouse downtown. He's avoiding me, thinking that by the time I get the divorce papers officially, I'll be too numb and exhausted to fight, but he underestimated me. I took the bank statements, stuffed them in my wallet, and drove straight to the apartment. When I got to the building, the doorman recognized me and let me in without looking. Tom was surprised. It took the elevator up. My heart was pounding when I got to the door. I didn't knock. I used the key card. I forgot to get back the second time. I walked in as though I'm sitting on the couch, a glass of wine in his hand, looking relaxed as if he wasn't trying to ruin my life. When he saw me, his face turned nasty. Helen, he said, put the glass down. What the hell are you doing here? I walked over and slammed the stack of bank statements on the table. He picked them up, and then looked up at me again. His face pale. Where did you get them? I crossed my arms. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? He smiled wryly. Helen, don't you understand? I get it perfect. I cut him off. I understand that while I was a faithful, loving wife, you transferred millions of dollars into an account that was in your name only. I understand that you thought you could file for divorce, leave me nothing, and escape punishment. His jaw clenched. This is none of your business. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. This is none of my business. We're married, Tom. That means half of everything you have is legally mine. His eyes darkened. If I can prove that the money was mine alone. I pressed harder, tightening my voice. And how do you think the judge would react when they see these things? I dug the transfer papers done during our marriage. The account you never disclosed the amount you were legally supposed to share. His face twisted with anger. You had no proof that I come off again. I had plenty of proof, and more importantly, is mild. I had David. He froze for the first time, is all the fear in his eyes. David wouldn't too, but he did. Is mild. Your own lawyer told me everything you were going to Lee, how you thought you could drag this out to court, until I gave up. Tom's hand clenched into a fist. That idiot knew you had fooled you, and he knew that I had a legal right to half of everything you tried to hide. For a moment, he said nothing, just stared at Meth, and his lips curled into a sneer. You thought you won. His voice dropped dangerously. This wasn't over, Helen. I picked up the papers and walked back towards the door. You were right, Azed, it was just beginning. Then I turned and walked away, leaving him to drown in the mess he had made. Tom thought that could threaten mirrored Meth, that sneer, the way he spat. This wasn't over, Helen. It was like I had to back off and let him win, but I didn't realize something. I was no longer the woman he had underestimated all these years. This time, I would get back everything. I outed the morning after our confrontation. I walked straight into David Green's office. He looked up from his desk, rubbing his temples. Helen, Hasida thought that would come back. I dropped a file on his desk. The file was full of evidence. You told me I could destroy him. I calmly said, make sure it happened. David glanced down at the documents. He slowly opened the file, skimming through the pages. I watched his face harden. He was busy, he muttered. I'm not wasting any time. He sighed, closed the file. Okay, let me explain what this means. He sat back in his chair, fingers clasped together. Tom didn't just want to lose the money, he wanted to be charged with fraud. I nodded, and David continued. If we took this to court, he would be in trouble. Not only would he get half, but the judge would consider his efforts to hide his assets, which meant he might have to pay you 50% more. I smiled. David hesitated. Tom was desperate. He wouldn't go down without a fight. Neither would I. That afternoon, we filed a lawsuit against Tom, not only for divorce, but also for fraud, financial misconduct, and intentional deception. It didn't take long for him to get the news. The first call came from an unknown number. I picked up. "You're crazy." Tom's voice came through the speaker, angry. I smirked. "Hello, dear girl, me. You've been to court, are you crazy?" I leaned back in my chair. "I think because you want everything to go through a lawyer. I'll make it official." His breather acted as if he was trying to keep his cool. He didn't know what he was doing. "Oh, I know exactly what I was doing, Tom," I said. My voice was zissy. I took what was mine, the silence. Then he did something unexpected. "He laughed at the had want. This was just a game toy, you wasn't it?" I tilted my head. "No, Tom, this is justice. And you played yourself." 2 weeks later, we went to court. Tom had found a lawyer, Lee, arrogant. Obviously thought this was going to be an easy win. He was wrong, because when the judge looked at the bank statements, the transfers, and the hidden account, his whole demeanor changed. "Mr. Carter," the judge said, squinting, "do you want to explain why you didn't disclose these assets during the divorce filing?" Tom moved on the chair. "Those funds were from before the marriage," he stammered. "David, respect your honor. Those transfers began a year ago during the marriage, making them community property. My client is entitled to half." The judge nodded. I glanced at Tom. His face was pale, his jaw clenched so hard I thought it might crack. "You're losing, and you know it." David had struck the final blow. "Judge, considering the deliberate attempt to conceal assets, we also want punitive damages." Tom's attorney jumped up to object, denying. The judge said sharply. He turned to Tom. "Considering the evidence, I'm inclined to rule in favor. Not only will Mrs. Carter get half of all assets, but considering the attempted fraud, she is also entitled to an additional financial settlement." Tom's hands clenched into fists. I watched my heart pound as the judge delivered the verdict. Tom would lose everything, not just half again because of his own greed, because he was thought that might play me. But now I was the one who won the adjournment, and I gathered my things. As I walked into the hallway, I heard footsteps behind me. Tom's voice was like a horse. It turned to face him. He looked hollow, like a man who has just realized he has lost. "The fight don't do that," I muttered. "You got what you wanted." I studied him for a moment. Then I leaned in and whispered, "No, Tom, you deserved it." His face scrunched up, and with that I walked away, leaving him behind this time. For good. I walked out of court that day with my head held high, the weight of 10 years of betrayal finally lifted from my shoulders. Tom, he walked out like a broken man. The judge's ruling had devastated him. Not only did I get half of everything, I got more. The fraud charges tipped the scales in my favor, and the additional settlement meant I walked away. If a fortune, otherwise, I walked away without what. The next few weeks were a spectacle of rumors spreading fast. Tom had lost, and in his world of high finance and power-hungry investors, losing meant being weak. I heard through the grapevine his business was going down, investors were pulling out, clients no longer trusted him, and his once thriving empire was starting to collapse. He tried to hold on, but in the end he had no money to fight with, no hidden funds, no asset. She was drowning, and the final nail in the coffin, he had to sell his penthouse, the same place he had taunted me so confident that could control everything. Now it was gone. I found out through Lisa, who was still working at this company, that he had had a mistress all this time who left him. As soon as the money ran out, it seemed his mistress had been expecting a lavish lifestyle. When I disappeared instead, there she became a shameless scammer. One day, she just disappeared, blocked his number, and moved on. Torture prey. Alex gave up everything for her, and in the end she left him nothing. Poetic justice for Malef has never been better. With the settlement, I was able to buy my dream house, not a penthouse, not some expensive house, a beautiful, peaceful place where for the first time in years, it felt at home. I no longer felt self-conscious, no longer doubted myself, no longer wondered if that person was sleeping next to me was lying. I not only want the lawsuit, not only want the money, but also won my life. One morning while I was sipping coffee on the porch, I got a text. Rom-tom for a moment I just stared at it pondering whether to open it then curious Tom can we talk? I guess bed saying now where was the energy when he decided to end the marriage or over text need to talk where when he spent here plotting against me I didn't reply instead it's something shorty need as ed. That everything I need to have a good life. Then I blocked his number forever.